But she didn't want to be like Rachel Barber. She wanted to become Rachel Barber.
Rachel wasn't perfect, you know, but Caroline thought she was. She wanted to become Rachel and and become part of Rachel and take her place in our family.
Rachel Elizabeth Barber was a talented and promising young dancer who lived in Australia with her parents and 2 younger sisters. The 15-year-old was a full-time student at the Dance Factory and dreamed of starring in a Broadway musical. She was described by those who knew her as an ambitious, fun-loving girl who marched to the beat of her own drum. Strikingly beautiful, Rachel's good looks would ultimately lead to her death. Welcome back to True Stories. Join the family in exploring some of the interesting true crime cases. As always, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe. Now, let's get into it. On the morning of March 1, 1999, Rachel's father dropped her off at a tram station near their home. She met up with her boyfriend, Emmanuel Carala, and his brother, Dominic. Together, the 3 headed to the Dance Factory for rehearsal. Rachel told Emmanuel she had a secret job after school, and that she was going to make a lot of money that night. She refused to tell him about the job or where it was, only that she was excited and planned to use the money to buy a pair of $100 shoes she had seen in a store window. Rachel was last seen at 5:45 p.m., leaving the Dance Factory. She was supposed to meet her father at the tram station at 6:15, but she never showed up. Rachel was reported missing that evening, and her grief-stricken parents covered every inch of the city with flyers asking the public for their assistance. Finally, 11 days later, a tip came in. A witness recalled seeing Rachel on a tram with an unknown woman the day she disappeared. Both Rachel and the woman got off the tram together at 6:40 p.m. Using phone records, investigators learned that Rachel had been speaking with someone frequently. Before her disappearance, her former babysitter, 20-year-old Carolyn Reed Robertson. 12 days after Rachel disappeared, investigators headed to Carolyn's apartment. After several unanswered knocks on the door, they made their way inside through an open bedroom window and found Carolyn on the floor suffering from an epileptic fit. Rachel's clothes were found hidden in a bag. Carolyn claimed that Rachel was dead, and when asked if she was sure, she responded, "Yes, I've buried her." She insisted that the teen's death had been an accident, but her own diary told a very different story. Carolyn babysat the Barber children for 5 years, and in that time, she grew increasingly jealous of Rachel's popularity, good looks, and seemingly perfect life. Pages and pages in her diary were filled with ramblings, obsessing over her. In one entry, Carolyn wrote, "Strikingly attractive. Dancer's body, very clear pale skin, hypnotic green eyes." In her diary, Carolyn expressed a desire to trade places with Rachel. She plotted to murder the teen and assume her identity. An application for Rachel's birth certificate was found in her apartment. Days before the murder, Carolyn phoned Rachel and asked her to participate in a university study for $100. She told Rachel the study was confidential and to keep it a secret.
Rachel as the ideal person, is the person she wanted.
Yeah, and this is the whole silly thing, because if Rachel had been told that Caroline saw her as a perfect person, Rachel would have laughed about that herself, because nobody's perfect and Rachel wasn't perfect.
On March 1st, Carolyn lured Rachel to her apartment. She ordered pizza and laced it with what she called a drowsy powder in her diary. Once Rachel fell asleep, Carolyn strangled her with a phone cord and hid her body in a closet. 2 days later, she buried Rachel on her father's farm next to her cat, Lucy. Carolyn led investigators to Rachel's burial site on March 14th. She was covered with a blanket.
Point, very cruelly so, Michael actually believed that she was alive. And he thought for whatever reason Rachel was with Caroline, but the important thing would be that she would be alive, that she hadn't been kidnapped, that she hadn't been raped. All the dreadful things that you could possibly ever imagine happened to your daughter, we had visualized.
Yet a cord was wrapped around her neck. Carolyn pleaded guilty to murder. She told the court she lived a friendless and despondent life. She fixated on Rachel, who she saw as pure and perfect, and everything she wasn't. She believed that by becoming Rachel, she would become happy. Carolyn was sentenced to 20 years in prison. She was released on parole in 2015, and upon seeing her for the first time in a decade and a half, Elizabeth Barber couldn't help but notice that she now resembled her daughter. There is a Rachel likeness there, the eyes. She was robbed of her future, her joys, and those who loved her, as we were robbed of her. If we, as Rachel's parents, had only taught Rachel to be more aware and not to be so trusting, this may not have happened. Rachel's voice needs to be heard. Rachel should not be forgotten. She is present for us always, and her presence is one that all parents should draw from. We've come to the end. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe. Till next time.